So Nate, very nice to meet you. Um, what would be your goal in our conversation today, Nate?
I'm intrigued with your ad. I've seen it a couple times and I'm like, okay, this guy must be crazy or weird or something. Maybe we have something in common. So I decided
Right?
I'm gonna
That's
call
what
up
I'm
this
saying.
call up
It's
this
funny,
guy and just see what in the world is going on. Yeah.
right? So it's
So
funny because it's an ad, it's a real ad from the 1800s. And a guy was going to Alaska on a adventure on a expedition, and he knew it was going to be dangerous, and so he knew that, and he wasn't able to pay him much, so he just put that ad in. When I saw that ad, I'm like, that is the coolest ad because that will attract the kind of person that I would like to go ahead and be connected with. And so that response to that ad, it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane how many people respond. It's just crazy. So Nate, tell me a little bit about yourself if you could.
okay. Um, so started my entrepreneurial ventures in the third grade when I was trading Hot Wheels and suckers and with my classmates. um, Grew up on a farm, but ultimately the farm life don't really know how that resonated with me. So started my first business at 26. Bought a stagnant product line from an existing manufacturer, and we grew that from about 200,000 to about 2 million over the next 6.5 years. Well, within that time, I got married. We were doing a lot of travels, a lot of trade shows and things like that. So got married, started having kids. Trade shows, travel, and kids don't always go together very well. So we made the choice to sell that business. Was 2020, and started a new business in 2020. Pretty much put in a CNC router. Decided let's see what happens. Well, by the end of 2023, I had 4 CNC routers in the shop, and it was like a big hump. Everybody needed parts in 2022, but nobody really needed them at the end of 2023. Um, so we still had a couple of great customers, um, and we were moving. We bought our new house. I bought Boone Books in the process of that. Boone Books is just a tiny little business bookstore, so we deal with business owners. Um, Within that time, I got involved with several other organizations that work with business owners, including the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, as you might
Yep.
call it.
Yep, I'm
And
familiar with that.
so at the present, we sold that shop last fall, the routers, and full time working with business owners, implementing EOS and selling books.
How many kids do you have?
We have 4 right now.
Okay. How old are you?
I am 39.
Okay. And your oldest and youngest?
Uh, Davey is 5, almost 6. He's the oldest, and the youngest is about 3 months.
Gotcha.
So young family.
Yep. Does your wife do any work outside the home? Does she help you with the businesses, or is she a full-time mom?
4 kids, 5 and under. You can probably answer that yourself, but
Well,
yeah,
my
she's.
my wife and I, we have 7 kids,
Mhm.
and she homeschooled them all, and she did do some help in the business yet. So
Yeah, she enjoys it. She goes sometimes, like this week, the Chamber of Commerce has an event in Shipshewana. She likes to go along to those events. I set up, a little booth with some of the books and just, get to know people.
right,
She loves to go along and, be my secretary and check out the books, but
right,
time constraints right now, taking care of, all the preschoolers is like do we take care of them or do we sub them out to someone else? And
Um, so do you know what your life vision is, what you were put on this planet to do?
um, I say I'm still kind of in the discovery phase. I think I'm leaning more toward having discovered that. I kind of believe that, the first part of life, we kind of have to discover what we're on here for. Um, then we live that out. But from where I'm at right now, my wife says always have ideas that I'm going toward. But right now, I love working with business owners. The EOS system is hot right now. I don't know how long that'll last, but I'm going to ride it.
Yep.
And it, yeah. So for the time being, I know I'm here to help people.
Gotcha. And which of these four shapes would you tend to like the most? A cube, a pyramid, a wavy line, or a ball? A cube, a pyramid, a wavy line, or a ball?
I don't know that I have a preference.
If you just had to humor me, which would you choose? A cube, a pyramid, a wavy line, or a ball?
Probably a pyramid.
And then after that, a cube, a wavy line, or a ball?
Cube.
And then after that, a wavy line or a ball?
A ball.
And then which of these four things would cause you the most frustration in any area of your life? Things not being done properly in order, out of control, boring or not fun, or conflict with others. Again, out of order, out of control, boring or not fun, or conflict with others.
Okay, what was the question? The original question?
What's most frustrating to you? Out of order,
Oh.
out of
Oh,
control, boring or not fun, or conflict.
boring. Number one, hands down.
And then after that, out of order, out of control, or conflict with others.
Probably out of order.
Okay. Then after that, out of control or conflict with others.
Probably conflict. Yeah, they're about the same.
And so Nate, I just did what's called a personality masteries test on you. Takes 17 seconds to do. Between these two tests, there are 65,536 possible combinations. You test out as one of the most complex. Did you know that?
I know I'm weird, but other than that, I don't know much about myself.
Yepper. So yeah, one of your greatest strengths at everything I say is going to be at times, because I knew as soon as you said, well, so when you say, even if people don't answer the question, I still know what personality they are. But so you test out as a chameleon personality when I combine them all together. And so one of your greatest strengths is your flexibility, maybe. One of your weaknesses might be your flexibility.
Hmm.
You're an inner outer quadrant personality. So the 65,536 possible combination, again, you're one of the most complex. And so in the one test, in the geo test, you test out as a driver analytic personality. So one of your greatest strengths at times is your drive, your assertiveness, you make things happen. One of your weaknesses at times is your drive, your assertiveness, you make things happen. So our greatest strength is our greatest weakness, and our greatest weakness is just our greatest strength misapplied. It's taking a strength and carrying it too far.
Mm-hmm.
Another strength that you'd have at times is you like to dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure things are done properly in order. And a weakness at times would be the same thing. Based on that test, you have a double portion of task focused. So you see the big picture very quickly, and you go ahead and see the details and how to do it. So that's the same exact personality I am. And so this type of personality is a machine, an absolute machine. It can be very hard to work with this type of personality. I'm not saying you, because I'll explain another part of you, which makes you more complex than I am. And so, because this person has what I call too much humility. So they often think, I'm just I'm just normal. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So they don't understand how their brain is very, very, very different than other people. So they're absolute machines. They tend to do really good in business because they see big picture. They can see things before other people see them, and they know how to execute. They're absolutely brilliant in business. The second test is the pain quadrant test. And that test, you test out very different in your primary, and that's an expressive. And so one of your greatest strengths would be your energy, excitement, and enthusiasm. You have a million ideas. One of your weaknesses would be your energy, excitement, enthusiasm. You have a million ideas. You test out secondary as analytics, same as the other test. So in this test, you're going to have a lot of inner conflict. And so in this test, the expressive has a million ideas and the analytic wants to do them all perfect. But in addition to that, you have even more inner conflict. So this type of personality is one of the most interconflicted personalities, in the world, because they have a million ideas. They want to do them all fast, all perfect, and they want everybody to be happy. What could possibly go wrong there? And so I don't know how accurate that is, Nate, but that's what the 17-second assessment tells me. Questions?
There's absolute there's some absolute accuracy there. My wife could definitely attend to a lot of what quite a bit of that. Just ironic that just last night I was looking, the neighbors mentioned that they're gonna, sometime in the next 5 years, they're gonna do a doggy house.
Okay.
And they're gonna move to one of the kids. So I'm looking at a property and I see a field, I see a barn, I see a house, I see a shop building out by the road. So I see a field, we could make hay, we could make corn, we could do produce, we could do whatever. I see a barn, we could, raise cows, we could raise calves, dogs, bunnies, we could do something like that. I see a house, it's a session room during the day where I do my EOS sessions. During the weekends, it's a bed and breakfast. I see the building out by the road. It's a store, it's an ice cream shop, it's whatever. My wife is going crazy.
Right. Are you Amish?
I am, yeah.
Interesting. And are you in a high or low district?
I'm in Shipshewana, India. I'm a couple miles from Shipshewana.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So this type of personality is, when they're hot, they're really, really hot. And when they're not, they're really, really not. The reason they're hot when they're hot is they're analyzing when they should analyze, executing when they should execute, focused on the task when they should the task, and people when they should the people. They are absolutely magical. I mean, just probably even from a young boy, people would say to you, Nate, like, how do you do everything? And you probably shrug your shoulders and smile and say, I don't know. But when this person gets cold, it is really cold. And so the reason for this, the science behind it, is it's like they have gears. They're wired. I believe God's wired them in such a way that they have gears, and these gears, when they're slightly off, it really makes things messy for them and people around them. And so they're analyzing when they should be executing. They're executing when they should be analyzing. They're focused on the task when they should the people, or people when they should the task. So this type of personality there's only about maybe 2 to 3% of the top executive coaches in the world that know how to coach this type of personality. It's not bad. It's just they're very, very complex. Questions?
No.
What would you say the biggest challenge, Nate, that you're facing in any area of your business or life?
Like ongoing or right now?
Sure.
My biggest challenge has always been follow through. Um, if you know that term, I'm saying I can start something up,
Yeah.
but once, like, just for a simple example, I worked at 7 years in the trailer factory. I wasn't on a job for more than a year and a half.
Yeah.
It's like once I figured it out, it was like, okay, now what?
Right.
And I see the same thing kind of in business. I had my
Yeah.
first business for 7 years, but it was always new, something new, something new, something new. Um,
Right.
but to then get back and do the nitty gritty day to day, that's the challenge.
Right. Any other challenges you have?
Mm, what are you fishing for?
Mm, I'm just throwing it in and just seeing, what fish are there.
Mm-hmm. Can't think of anything right now. I mean, yeah, I've got challenges. Always have challenges.
Okay.
But staying focused for long term is definitely a challenge. Relationships can be a challenge. Prioritizing is has been a challenge. I could work day and night, and I've got 4 kids that want my attention, so that's been a challenge.
Yeah. So you said staying focused, relationships, and what was the other thing?
Prioritizing.
Gotcha. Yeah. And if somebody, Nate, anybody could help you in any area of your life, business or personal, anything, if somebody, anybody could help you in any area of your life, what would you love help with?
Just right now, I'm looking at let's see, just developing myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I've come a long way, but there's so much to learn,
Right.
and finding that balance of just continual growth.
Right. Gotcha.
Because I'm only halfway there. I'm 40 years old, and everything I accomplished from 0 to 40. If I could just keep on doing that from 40 to 80, what else?
What's interesting so I'm 60. And so when I turned 40, I had this epiphany. And I said, Mark, if you knew at 20 what you know at 40, holy cow, that would have been so cool.
Mhm.
And then I had a further thought and I said, I bet you when I turn 60, I'm going to wish I knew at 40 what I know at 60.
Mhm.
So then what I did is I set out on a journey to be able to accelerate the learning and learn maybe in 3 or 4 years what normally would take me 20 years.
Mhm.
And man, have the last 20 years been insane. Holy cow. It's been wild. 1 to 10, Nate, how coachable would you say you are? 10 being the highest or most?
Probably 7,
Okay. And if you
6 or
could
7.
change one thing about yourself, what would you change?
Hmm. I don't know. Maybe I'm too egotistical right now.
Why do you go ahead and say that?
I've just been blessed, the last 5 years with with getting married, having a nice, actually, we got married 7 years ago, having a nice, a nice wife, having a nice family, being financially in a place where I can kind of, pursue business ventures as I want. Just starting out in some new business ventures. Kind of am where I want to be right now, but still wanting to grow.
Right.
I don't see this as an end all, but I see this as finally
Right.
kind of more in control of my life than I have been in the past.
Nice. And 1 to 10, how would you rate your listening skills? 10 being the best
Depends.
on average.
I say probably 7
Okay.
because
And
I
your
enjoy listening to people's stories.
cool. And your sales skills, how would you rate your sales skills? 10 being the highest.
8,
And
9,
your sense of urgency, just overall in anything, 10 being the highest.
probably 8 or 9.
And that's a high sense of urgency, Nate. Why would you say it's so high?
I say it's my internal personality drive. It's just like, I think I have to get it done now. But I don't really know why it has to be all done right now. Probably well, fear of losing opportunities would probably
Gotcha.
be boiling it down.
And 1 to 10, Nate, how much of a procrastinator would you say you are? Just overall in any area of life. 10 being the highest procrastinator, 1 being none.
Um, 4, there's some things I procrastinate intentionally on.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any other reasons you procrastinate?
Obviously, fear is a factor, always a factor.
Fear of what?
Fear depends on what I'm procrastinating on, either fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of relationship.
Gotcha. And if somebody was coaching and mentoring you or working beside you or, whatever, and they thought you were procrastinating, Nate, how would you like them to respond to you?
Well, if it's something that's important that actually needs to get done, I'd like them to kick me in the butt till I get it done. Quite literally or unliterally.
And if they did that, would it work?
I'm not sure because it has to be. Somehow they have to convince me that this is the most important thing to do.
Right. Yep.
That's the
Got it. And Nate, if somebody said the following to you, how would you respond? So if somebody said to you, Nate, I think you're coachable at a 2, your listening skills are a 1.5, your sales skills are a 3, your sense of urgency is a 2.5, and you're an 8 on procrastination. If somebody said that to you, Nate, how would you respond?
must not know me.
Gotcha. And how many hours are you currently working a week now, Nate?
I'm self-employed, so I don't keep track of hours.
If you had to
Um,
guess,
I'd say 45,
okay.
50. Yeah.
And how many would you ideally like to be working?
I mean, I enjoy work, so it doesn't, yeah, I love what I do. So
Awesome.
I enjoy the work that I do. So
Awesome.
not like I wanted, I mean, actually, I'd like to be working more, but I have a family to take care of. So I need to
Right.
mow the lawn, play with the kids, do all that. And I want to do that too, but it's just,
Right. No, I get it. I
yep.
get it. And if I were to ask your wife how many hours she'd like you working, how many would she say?
20.
Nice. That's funny. Gotcha. Um, and what would be your wow income goal over the next 12 months? What would be a wow income goal? Something that would absolutely just totally rock your life, totally excite you.
Over the next 12 months?
Yeah.
Um, I've kind of got a 3-year picture I've got in mind.
Okay. What's the 3 year?
500,000.
Gotcha. And so over the next 12 months, what would be the wow income goal?
I told my tax guy 200.
Gotcha. And your minimum income goal over the next 12 months?
I don't really have a minimum income goal.
Gotcha.
I've made enough this year to hold me through the year, so
Gotcha. All right. Nate, is there any other questions that we should have asked that we didn't ask, or any additional information we should know that we don't know?
I don't really know that there is. I think you asked a bunch of questions, and I'm not sure what all you wanted to know, but
Okay.
I'm curious a little bit of what you do and how you do it, and something like
Okay.
that.
So I was going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? Is that the question you have for me?
That's
Like,
the
what do I?
question.
Okay.
I saw
So
this
I'm not
ad and I called to figure out what it is, and
right.
now I'm just answering a bunch of questions.
Right. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what I do. Okay. If you find out, you have to promise me though that you'll tell my wife.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so my life vision, what I believe God's put me on this planet to do, is to touch every single person in the world, one person at a time, make a huge difference in every aspect of their life in a fun and exciting way. And yes, that's 8+ billion people. So I've known that since I was 8 years old. I grew up as a pastor's and a missionary's kid. My dad was a Baptist pastor, so very conservative. Actually, so Elaine, she's Amish, lives down the street. We moved to Bristol about 3 years ago, and so we have 4 acres right on the river, and there's a pond and lots of things for there. So we have 7 kids and 8 grandchildren, and 2 more on the way. And so I own, I think it's 9 companies now. The main company that I own is Synergy Solutions. And so people ask what I do there, and I say various things, but the latest thing, it's a mental chiropractor is really what it is. And so, what's the difference between earning $200,000 a year and 500,000? It's how we think. What's the difference between having follow through and sticking with stuff? It's how we think, or staying focused, or relationships, or prioritization, or developing ourselves. It's how we think. And so, so I've owned that company, Synergy Solutions. We're going on 34 years. I've also been blessed to be an international speaker and author. So I'm writing my 18th book actually with Elaine. It's called Clean Windows, Learning to See Things We Can't See. I've traveled all around the world. God has blessed my wife and I with 39 years of marriage. And so God's blessed where, I really don't have to work anymore. So I do a lot of volunteer work. So I probably volunteer between 20 and 30 hours a week, at least every week. I do a lot of volunteer work with Life Masteries Institute. They're a nonprofit organization, 501c3. And so I do a lot of things, with them. And so I have a heart to help people discover their life vision and then live it every day. I have a heart for business owners um, because they often end up owning a job rather than owning a company. And so um, were there specific things you'd like to know about me or what I do?
Not really, yeah, just, so Synergy Solutions is that is the coaching company?
Yeah, and our clients say that we're business or executive coaches. I don't think we are, but I understand what they're saying. Um, we're more like architects or engineers. Um, and so there's in the business side, um, we develop what's called a boss system, which is interesting. Um, so I ran across the EOS. I don't know what it was, probably 5, 6 years ago. One of my co-authors, Tom Coons, he's the most recent past president of Century 21, largest real estate franchise in the world. I don't think he's the one that introduced me to, I think it was Peter Miles, and I've done a lot of projects with him. He's a past board member of BMW, past president of Rolls-Royce. So he and I have done a bunch of projects. Actually, I have a 3-hour podcast with him this afternoon. I'm
Gotcha.
like, 3 hours? But he and I always find something. So it's going to be an interesting thing. And so I'm somewhat familiar with the EOS system. And so what Synergy does is we have what's called a number of different x-rays. And so there's a business life x-ray. And so that is often like we architect and engineer the engine to run the business. So a boss system, it's the engine that runs our business, our life. We earn the money we earn, work the hours we work, have the stress and life balance we do or don't have because of that engine. And so, but that engine should be designed and architected around what our life vision is. So if people don't understand their life vision, what they were created to be, then it's really hard to develop, your business around them. And so based on your personality, because of the complexity, the good thing about your personality is everything you do, you're going to enjoy. The bad thing about your personality is everything you do, you're not going to enjoy. So that is what you're wired, I believe, by God in the womb. You're wired to be almost like a gypsy business wise. You're just like, you're just, you're just like you conquer something. And I've got a lot of Amish friends. I've got a number of Amish I've gone into business with. I'm in business with. And so I see a lot of this in the Amish community. They're just restless. They just want to, I don't know, they're just crazy learners. I mean, it's like it's like they just want to, I don't know, it's hard to, I don't know the words to explain it. It's absolutely cool to be around it for me.
Mhm.
It's like I feel like I'm in heaven. It's like entrepreneurial heaven when we moved here. I'm like, everybody's got a side gig going. Everybody's got some really cool things. And so one of the things that I have a heart for is the factory. There is so much IP, intellectual property, So the Amish are phenomenal with their hands. Um, but that's where most of them look to make money, is with their hands and physically. And there's nothing wrong with that, at all. My dad was a farmer, raised as a farmer. And so there's nothing wrong with that. The mind, though, is absolutely cool too. And so, what's interesting to me about the factories is that there's a lot of pent up potential in the factories. It's just intriguing to me, where I talk to a lot of Amish working in the factory, and I'm like, okay, they say, I want to start a company. And it's like, well, what kind of I want to be a business owner. What kind of business owner? Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Like, and so that, the difference between a business owner, a person who owns a business and an entrepreneur is very, very different. And so, you and I just have, crazy that you led with a 3-year-old story. Like, that's just awesome to me. And that's really wired inside of you. And so, I don't know if any of that makes sense or not.
Yep. Can you give your description, like a 1 sentence entrepreneur, 1 sentence business owner?
So, an entrepreneur will start new things. They'll start their artists. So they start new businesses. A business owner will take that new business and they will run it. So I'm a great entrepreneur.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not a good business owner.
Yep.
Like once I'm like you. Once I conquer something, I want to conquer something else. And where you make the most money, and money to me, I don't know what it was, 15, 20 years ago, I had a values inventory. It wasn't Christian. It was just, I don't know, secular. There were 30 values. And the number one value they came up with for me on the test was spirituality. The number 30 was money. So, my background is I have 3 degrees in business from Northern Illinois University, 1 in finance, 1 in management, 1 in marketing. I hated school, hated it. But I'm like, I know that 97% of all businesses go out of business within 7 years. I'm better of a backup. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to go to college, I might as well get something that's going to be helpful. So I picked up those, and they were not in the way a lot of people think they are, not as good as what I think they could have been, but didn't hurt me for sure. When I graduated, the only job I knew I didn't want to take was, a sales job. I had 6 job offers coming out of college. So my resume looked really good. I was married. My wife and I were married when she was 19 and I was 20 in college. And so we were both in college. She graduated, got her elementary education degree. We decided to start a family. So I got 6 job offers, and the one I took was 100% straight commission. You're like Tom Kuntz, and so I'm very envious in a good way of your personality. So people don't like me. They just don't, which is okay. I've accepted that. So the driver, amiable personality, they'll tend to, you know, um, they'll tend to go ahead and like people, see their potential and all that. So they'll like them and run them over, and then apologize for running them over and run them over again. That seems a little harsh until you talk about my personality, which is a driver analytic personality. And so I'll run somebody over and, explain to them why they deserve to be run over. So people don't like me. People really like you because you have a deep expressive part of you. So you're like, my co-author, Tom Kuntz, where you'll run people over, but do it in such a fun, funny, cool way that people say, Nate, please run me over again. I'm like, he's meaner than I am. How come he gets away with it? And I don't. And so, So yeah, and an entrepreneur like to reach the 8 billion people, I've known since I was a very young boy that I wanted to own my own company. I don't know, business is wired into me. It's just hardwired in. That's an entrepreneur. A business owner doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. And so a business owner is going to run a business and they're happy running that business maybe their whole life. An entrepreneur will never be happy just doing one thing.
Mhm. Yep.
Other questions or thoughts?
Yep. No, that's well explained.
Cool.
That's kind of what I thought you'd be coming to because,
Yep.
I mean, totally see the difference between, people that are going out starting new things all the time and somebody that, latches onto a business and just runs it.
Um, so would you like any help to get to the 500 faster or not so much?
Um, I mean, obviously, help is always, appreciated. Right now I'm looking at, connecting, how can I best connect with those business owners that need, um, yeah, kind of in the same market you are, actually, to be blunt. Yeah, like,
Yes and no. Who's your ideal client?
so with EOS, we're looking at, entrepreneurs from 10 to 250 employees. They're frustrated.
Yeah,
They're growth oriented. They want to grow. They want to learn. They want to take their business to the next level.
yeah.
Need more clarity with, yeah.
That's what I kind of figured. And so um, what I do know about the EOS system is it's very data driven analytics. And so those are things that I naturally just love. So we don't do the things that EOS does, at least not, we don't have the systems in place to do what the EOS system. So I think I've run across EOS a lot,
Hmm.
but it seems like we don't like there's not I don't run into competition like the people that are typically drawn to us or the people that are typically drawn to EOS. um, they need specifically what EOS does,
Hmm.
and we don't do those things that EOS does. So I'm not saying it's never or nothing. In a way, yes, but in another way, I could actually see us complimenting you guys a lot and you guys complimenting us a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, and those are the kinds of people, kinds of relationships I'm trying to build up right now. Is trying to find those. So just like the ad, it's kind of okay. This guy's crazy. He's up to something. Um, we'll give him a holler. Want to see what he's got, what he does, how his system works.
Yeah. And like when I have a conversation with people, um, when I have a conversation with people, I really go in with an, open mind, empty bowl, like whatever the person wants to talk about, whatever they want to accomplish. Um, I can help focus. I can really, in the season of life that I'm in, like we went on vacation 2 weeks ago, and then we went on vacation last week. So we went on vacation 2 weeks ago with one of my daughters, her husband, and two kids. And then last week we went on another vacation with another one of our daughters, her husband, her five kids. And then tomorrow I'm leaving for another vacation with another one of our daughters and one of our grandchildren. And in 4 weeks, one of our daughters is due. And then I think another 4 weeks after that, another one of our daughters is due. And so I think I've got a good 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm thinking about going on. We went last week to Kentucky to the Ark.
Hmm.
And man, I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. And, with five kids under the age of 11, they don't really want to read much.
Yep.
And so I told my wife, I said, you and I need to go back there without anybody, just you and me. She's like, okay, that'd be a lot of fun. And she's like, when? I'm like, I don't know. Like, we have vacation next week, but what about the following week after that? And I told my daughter from last week, I said, and she's the one that went on vacation or 2 weeks ago. She's the one that's due in 4 weeks. And she says, you guys are going to go on another vacation? I'm like, yeah, it's only 4 hours. And, you're 4 weeks, it'll be fine. So, um, so yeah, it's the season in life I'm in. I am just, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It is really unbelievable. In 2 weeks, uh, from today, so our oldest son, uh, 4 years ago, it's the anniversary. June 17th is the anniversary of his death. So he was 30 years old. And so he died of suicide, gunshot to the head with our 19-year-old son in the room out in Arizona. And so I'm glad that I had all the systems in place for my business when that happened. Um, so I think I went down to maybe working 2, 3 hours a week for probably a year. And the business grew like crazy. It's
Mhm.
like, um, and so, um, it's like when something like that happens, you're like, okay, God, what do you want? Well, and when you don't have to work, you don't have to really make money. Um, like it's like every day, like, God, how do I steward my day?
Mhm.
Because wasn't always like that. When we had the 7 kids, 4 teenagers, 9/11 happened, it just decimated our business. Our entire business model just got destroyed. And and uh and so I went from 50 hours, 55 hours a week, working, which is very comfortable for me. And had to bump it up, or I chose to bump it up to 110 hours to turn the company around.
Mhm.
And so it was I never missed a baseball game or play or anything. The kids, even at 110 hours a week, I was still, I mean, I was working remotely before anybody else was. So, uh, so I actually been working from home for probably 20 years now. And so yeah, it's been a great journey, and I have so much to be thankful for, but I never really had mentors.
Mhm.
And so I have a huge heart for mentoring, especially young men, especially
Mhm.
married young men with children. I'm like, I wish somebody was there for me, because man, that would have made my life a lot easier.
Mhm.
But there's good in having hard too.
Mhm.
Any other questions or thoughts, Nate, that you have?
Yep. What does your system look like, or your programs, or
So the
obviously,
first, yeah, the first thing we do before we go ahead and, our 3-step process for the business side is examination, solution, and implementation. So, step one is the examination. And so we're just like a doctor. Like, a doctor never gives a prescription, without doing an examination first. And so, we don't know, in the coaching side, in the, engineering side, we don't know if we're the right one or somebody else is until we get to know somebody better. Um, the examination can be a simple, short series of questions like we had right now, or it can be a much more comprehensive, thorough assessment like the business X-ray. The business X-ray is $285. And so one of my associates would go ahead and interview you if you wanted to do that. Would interview you for roughly about an hour and gather, a bunch of information, personal business, a bunch of stuff. And then if you wanted me to personally do the review of it, I'd be more than happy to do that since I got to know you today. And so the $285 is not coaching. It's just a very, very thorough assessment, um, personal and business wise. And that includes the initial interview, that includes the review, it includes a report that we get you. And then if you ever have any questions on the x-ray, then you can call us or email us anytime and we're happy to answer any questions you have. After the x-ray, there's people will say, well, what happens after the x-ray? And it's like, well, we don't really know until we go ahead and do the x-ray, because there's no two businesses alike, just like there's no two people alike. And so
Mhm.
the first step we do is the business x-ray, and then determine, sometimes, people just do that and that's all. And that's cool. We had one guy a few years ago that he had 3 businesses. If we did a business x-ray on him, and I had the privilege of doing the review. And at the end of the review, um, I said, any other questions, any thoughts? He said, man, Mark, I am so ticked off. And I'm like, okay, sorry, like what's going on? And he said, I wish I'd have known you a year ago. He said, I paid an outside consulting firm to come in and they charged me over $40,000. And I honestly learned more in your $285, the x-ray, than I did the 40,000. I'm like, ouch. Yepper. And so the x-ray is the first thing. And I don't know, because we don't have that information, that might be all there is. And you take that and you off to the races. There might be other recommendations like Life Masteries Institute. They have a ton of free resources and some others that are low cost resources. So a lot of times, if people need help in specific areas, they'll be able to help them. And so we have other, so if we're not once we see the x-ray, then we make a recommendation on what, the next steps are for them to address whatever they want to address.
Mhm.
Make sense?
Makes sense. Yep.
Any other questions?
Not necessarily right now. I was kind of thinking, my business isn't necessarily, I don't really have a business right now. The business is me.
And the x-ray, what the x-ray will do, we have 5 different x-rays. The business x-ray is designed for the individual. And there's other types of x-ray. There's team and leadership and executive. So the business x-ray, what it would do is the way that it would be, the way that we would assess you is it would be you and then your past businesses. And so kind of where it is. So there's patterns that we can pick up in that assessment that will go ahead and help you in any future businesses you have, or even, in the EOS, that's a business too.
It
So
is,
you're
yep.
looking for clients there. So it would take a look at you, it would take a look at your past businesses. There's patterns, there that would be identified and that would help you. And so the business x-ray, again, is not a coaching program. It's a boom, it takes a picture of things. But I think that would help you understand yourself better in following through. I don't think that you need to stick with stuff.
Hmm.
I think
I
what
kind
you need is a system or people or both. You need people that will take up what you're doing and you can sell it. You've done that a couple times at least, and that's
of.
good. You just don't have an annuity.
Mhm.
So there's Kenny Bontrager. He's 24 now. And
Mhm.
I met him 3 years ago, actually from the same ad.
Okay.
And he came out to my house and he brought a bunch of other Amish, people came out to the house. And so he and I started a business. He was working in the factory. He and I started a business. Then we started another business. Then he got out of the factory. Um, and, uh, and man, working with him, holy cow. I'm like, So I asked him, I said, what kind of a business would you like? He's like, maybe landscaping or maybe koi ponds or stuff. I'm like, well, I've got our first client. That would be me. Um,
Yeah.
so he and I and a bunch of other people, we brought in over 300 ton of boulders, and we built waterfalls and decks and all kinds of stuff on the property. And he's a machine, but he's like you, where he's always happy doing what he's doing, and then he's never happy. And I
Yep.
could see that. And
Yep.
at the end, I said, "So do you want to really pursue this?" No, I don't. I'm tired of that. He says it was fun once. So he only does something once. Well, that's not how, the RV factory, they don't do something once. The way you make a lot of money, if you want to make a lot of money, is you get a system down and it's just a machine and how it operates.
Yep.
So fortunately, it took us, I don't know, a year and a half that. And then for that year and a half, I'm like, how am I going to design a system for this kid to do business with him? Because he's so freaking smart. He picks up stuff so fast, and then he's on to the next thing.
Mhm.
And so I have some experience in working with some individuals like yourself. It's frustrating, but it's very exciting because I'm just like he is. I don't want to, like, it was funny last year, a year and a half ago. He's like, "Hey, Mark, um, you want to go on vacation with me?" I'm like, "Sure." And I said, "Where do you want to go?" And he's like, someplace warm, like it was November or December. I'm like, well, I've got some clients, in San Antonio, Texas, and they've been wanting, I've had them for years and I've never met them. And they've wanted me to come and visit them. You want to go to Texas? And he's like, sure. I said, you want to, he's in Roomspringer. And I said, you want to go ahead and fly or drive? He's like, let's drive. So I'm like, okay. So I don't so so we drove down there and we stayed there for a week, and it was insane. I mean, it was just the way his mind works. It's
Mhm.
almost like a child, like
Yep.
your mind, like my mind. Like it's like a 3-year old where we're just like we're listening and picking up everything, which is why our wives love us and why
Yep.
they get frustrated with us.
Yep.
you know, it's like
Yep.
um so um So yeah, I think the business X-ray, I think that you would gain a lot of value from that. I think that would help you to see yourself and maybe some of the pieces like I mean, it would definitely help you in understanding the focus, relationships, and prioritization. There's a young guy, and he's in robotics, and
Mhm.
he's got 3 young kids. And I met him a few years ago at one of my granddaughter's birthday parties. And she had another one. We talked again, and I was talking to him, and I said, yeah, um, he was talking something about, kids and wife. And I said, you know, I love what I do so much that it's not even work. It's
Mhm.
so much fun. And so I love spending time with my wife and my kids, but like my rule when I take my adult children on vacation is dad will pay for a lot of it, but the rule is you're happy.
Yep.
Because if you're not happy, then I'm going to
We're
go
not,
back to work.
and we're not going.
Yeah,
Uh,
because I'm going to go
I,
back to work because I enjoy working more than I do vacation.
yep.
And I said,
It's,
so in a way, I like work so much. He said, and he said, I would have never guessed that about you. Why? Because he sees me playing with my grandkids. Well, grandkids
yep.
are fun. Like they're
Yeah.
just awesome. Kids, I don't know. maybe not so much. It's like, man, they're little buggers. And
Yep.
and so he said that is such an encouragement to me. And my son-in-law, they live in Topeka, Emma, and he just bought an accounting firm, 1,500 clients, and so he just bought an accounting firm, and so he was raised Amish, and then he married my daughter, and he loves to work.
His
And we,
name?
Jason Miller. So he's buying Wilmer Weaver's practice.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Yep.
so Jason's been doing taxes for, I don't know, 7, 8 years. And so interesting story. But anyways,
I,
and he loves to work.
yep. I
And
have another call coming up here at 10
oh,
o'clock.
gotcha. All right. All right. Any other
Pretty-
questions? Anything else we can do for you, Nate?
Right now, I'm gonna keep your information, right handy.
Okay,
And, I think we should stay connected.
for sure. For sure. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Very nice getting to meet you.
You as well, Mark. It was a pleasure, and, I'll try to keep connected. We should, yeah, I don't know if you're through I'm just 2 miles, 4 miles from Emmatown.
Okay.
We're off of US 20, about 2 miles on 1,000 West.
Oh, for sure.
So
For sure.
if we should meet up. You have is that a monthly Saturday breakfast up at Royce Lake Walls, or is it?
It is. It's the first Saturday of every month.
First Saturday, and, reservations required.
Yeah. So Elaine can get you that information, and then I do a few podcasts on a weekly basis too, and I think you'd enjoy those. They're 30 minutes, and
Okay.
I do a number of those, and I think you would enjoy those a ton.
Okay. Can you do a call in on them, or are they,
You can, yeah. It's actually the same exact number that you do here. So yeah,
okay,
you can do the exact same number that you have here. And so Elaine can get you some information on those
okay,
two to jump in, and I think you'd enjoy those a lot.
okay.
All right,
All
sounds good,
right.
Nate. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks
bye-bye.
for your time.
Yep,
Yep.
bye.